Okay, hello, here we are. SpectraLayers Pro. New features and more basics. Welcome to the Google Hangout. YouTube Hangout? Either way, I guess. YouTube Hangout. It's the Hangout. Here we are. My name is Mike Scheibinger, and I'm at Virtu Studio. I'm here in Madison, Wisconsin. It's a nice, sunny Saturday morning. 11 a.m. is the start time of this presentation. And we are live. And I'm just going to spend a few minutes making sure that everything is running properly and that we are streaming. And then, of course, waiting for some comments to come in. People are checking in, and I want to say hello to everyone. This is, in a lot of ways, this is my favorite part of these Hangouts, watching people check in from all over the world and all different times of day and night. And everybody's looking for information about the new SpectraLayers Pro Edition, SpectraLayers Pro 7. It's a huge upgrade. And today we'll be spending quite a bit of time looking at all these new features and some old features and new ways to do stuff and different ways to do things, different possibilities, and looking forward to having a great session. So, yeah, we officially start at 11, but I thought I would check in a little bit early and make sure everything's running right and that we say hello to some people coming in. And here we are. Here we are. So welcome. Welcome. So glad to see you here. So glad. Definitely. Definitely. So SpectraLayers Pro 7 is a huge, huge upgrade from Pro 6. There are more new features in SpectraLayers Pro 7 than any other version to date. And I guess the most important thing, if there is a most important thing, is that, you know, SpectraLayers now has a lot of automatic processes, whereas before it was mostly sort of a manual program where you engage editing tools, you know, much like you would in a video or photo editing application. And you would use tools to go in and make really sophisticated and deep edits. But now SpectraLayers Pro features lots and lots of built-in automatic processes that really make the program incredible. And I am just going to check and make sure that my audio is coming through. Just one moment, please. This is. Indeed it is. I think that we're off to a flying start. I've got a nice connection, and yeah. So we'll start in about 12 minutes, and get busy. We will. Definitely. This is great. As you can see here, I have made my cursor kind of large so that you can see what I'm pointing at better. I'm not really sure how well that's going to work throughout the presentation. I might have to make it smaller again in order to do, you know, more finely detailed things. But for now, we'll just leave it like this, and it should be okay for a while. And again, we're doing this on Saturday because you've chosen Saturday. The last time I had a hangout, we solicited your feedback on the best time of day to have a hangout like this, and you guys came in with Saturday, and so yeah, Saturday's the day, and the topics that you would like to see addressed as you start checking in, and getting settled in, you can type in the topics that you would like to see addressed, and we'll try to tackle every single one in turn. My goal today is to show, basically every single new feature in SpectraLayers Pro 7. And, while you're here, of course, you can type in feature requests for future upgrades and updates, and we take those very seriously. Many of the new features in SpectraLayers Pro 7 are based on end-user feature requests. And here we are again, and waiting for some people to check in. 10:51, we'll start in about 9 minutes. And another thing I'd like to know is, would you like to see more repair and restore features, or would you like me to focus more on sound design? We're going to hit both, but I would like to, sort of gauge people's interests here a little bit. And, of course, repair and restore and sound design, two completely different topics. The sound design features in SpectraLayers Pro 7 are amazing, and they've got a lot of bells and whistles. And the repair and restore stuff, of course, it's a little bit more technical, a little bit more academic. And so the choice is yours. We can have more entertaining moments here, or informative. Informative meaning a little bit more technical on the repair and restore side. And that leads me to another observation that I've made. When SpectraLayers Pro 7 came out, there were a bunch of videos on the Steinberg site, and some of these videos explored music production and sound design. And I think that took a few people by surprise. They were saying, "What? I thought SpectraLayers was a repair and restore application." Now, what's happening with all this music production and EDM and loops and stuff like that? And it's great. I mean, I was really glad to see those, because more people, I think, need to be aware that SpectraLayers is a sound design and music creation tool. It's a creative tool, not just a straight up repair and restore application. So yeah, music production, definitely lots of that. So yeah, we'll have some fun stuff and some academic stuff, and we're going to start officially in about 7 minutes, and we'll do a deep dive today and push the boundaries and see where we can go with the new features in SpectraLayers Pro 7. A lot of these features are new to me, and I discover new things and new ways to do things every single day. And I will probably discover new things right here at this meet. A lot of this stuff is, a lot of the things I'm going to do today will be sort of, improvising. I'll be kind of flying without a net a little bit. And so expect a couple of strange moments, I'm sure, but all fun. And looking forward to getting into that. The best way to learn SpectraLayers Pro is by watching videos like this. SpectraLayers Pro has always been an application that needs to be seen to be appreciated. And so the best way that you can learn about SpectraLayers Pro is by watching demonstrations just like this one. Okay, we're going to start briefly. I'm going to take a quick moment here to check a couple of different things, make sure everything's running right. Looking good. Looking good so far. Okay. Here we go. Sir N68 has checked in. Welcome. And you say, I should like to learn more about sound design. by the way, from Sweden. Hello, Sweden. I might have to catch the return later. We'll see. Well, good. Stick around. And at the end of this presentation, of course, it's archived at the Steinberg site, so you'll be able to come in and check it out, pick up where you left off, and everything will be totally cool. So welcome. Tim Willingham, if you get a chance, I'm very interested in noise reduction for sampling, definitely. You know, SpectraLayers has always had a really superb noise reduction algorithm. And today, I'm going to show you different ways to reduce noise in a file that do not involve the use of the typical SpectraLayers Pro noise reduction algorithms. For example, unmixed components, where you can take a sound, with unmixed components, you can take a sound and unmix it into component parts, and one of those components is noise. So by default, it becomes a method of noise reduction that you can use as an alternative to the built-in methods of noise reduction that are sort of like in front of you. And so, again, it's about getting into these processes and using them and saying, oh, wow, I can use, for example, I can use unmixed components for noise reduction. Perfect. And a lot of times it does the process in a way that's surprising or startling to you. And you'll see all about that. Hey, Alexandra from Brazil. Hello from Brazil. Wow, excellent. Yes, noise reduction tools are important. They are important. And in SpectraLayers Pro 7, many different ways to accomplish these tasks. And we'll be looking at a bunch of those ways today. Yeah. As a matter of fact, I think we're going to start out looking at some noise issues really early on, right away. Right. But not in the way that you might expect. That's the thing about SpectraLayers Pro 7. It delivers sometimes predictable results, and sometimes it delivers extremely pleasing, unanticipated outcomes that really make you appreciate the program. It's amazing. Yeah, we're going to start in 3 minutes. Talk. Yes, it's. We're going to start in 2 minutes. The pictures. Yeah, I went through kind of a street photography phase. I was out shooting a lot of pictures, and that was fun. So yeah, these are street shots that I've taken over the years, and I enjoy photography. I like this stuff. I like photography. I like music and sound. I like DAWs and fun stuff like that. Making art. Automatic noise reduction, for sure. Trans 2020 is checking in. And, I'm not really an authority on the kinds of deals that are out there and the kinds of opportunities that are being presented for you, to acquire the program. But I'm sure there are many of them. Explore, the Steinberg site and get in touch with their customer service and definitely find the deal that's right for you. Upgrade prices, cross-grade prices, stuff like that. Okay, I'm going to go down to my dock and open SpectraLayers Pro 7 because we are starting in 1 minute. Okay, here we go. Am I going to say something that we don't know already? I don't know. Maybe. We'll see. Stick around and find out. And one minute to go. Hey, Leo. Photos and music, just like me. Yeah, that's really great. And, this is one of my favorite parts of a Hangout is checking in and hanging out with like-minded people. People who like art, people who like music, people who like technology, people who like to be on the cutting edge. That's us. Hello from Argentina. Hey, Louis. All right. Yes, Leo. Just like you. Hello from Russia. Hello from Wisconsin. I'm going to have a little drink of water here, and then we're going to kick it off. Okay, let's get started. We're going to begin with a new feature in SpectraLayers Pro 7 called Unmix Components. Let's open a file and get started. And my first file is Bamboo Flute. Look, I have 10 different sounds that we can explore here. I'm probably not going to get around to all of them, but we'll go through them one by one and see what happens. Hey, Chris from DC, in isolating individual instruments, of course, definitely. Now, this hangout is made for people who already know SpectraLayers and people who are beginners at SpectraLayers. And I'm going to assume that there's sort of like a mix of beginners and experts here. And so I'm going to take this nice and slow, and I'm going to show you all the moves that I'm making in order to accomplish the things that I plan on doing here. So we have a sound here called bamboo flute.wave, and I have loaded that waveform into SpectraLayers, and when I do, I load the waveform, it comes up as a wave file in SpectraLayers as a layer, and this is what we call a layer. I can change the color from green to any one of these colors, and let's pick orange. And so let's listen to our first audio sample. Okay, I'm going to put it on loop mode down here in the transport, and we'll just listen to it a couple times. Okay, that's a flute sample that was performed by the great ambient music composer Robert Rich. And so thank you, Robert, for this sample. Look down here next to the transport panel, and you will see a meter, an audio, it's a VU meter. Watch. Okay, that's new in SpectraLayers Pro 7. SpectraLayers Pro doesn't really need a lot of metering. You will want to use metering in SpectraLayers Pro when you are mixing a whole bunch of different layers and you want to make sure that you don't exceed 0 dB. But our little meter down here serves its purpose, and like I said, we don't really need a lot of metering. We need just enough to understand that we're not clipping. Okay, here we go. Okay, the first process I'm going to show you is unmixed components. And so we are going to go to Layer and Unmixed Components. So when I choose that, I get a dialog, and I can choose to unmix transients and reconstruct hidden noise. Reconstruct hidden noise is sort of like an interpolation algorithm that will fill in the blanks of spaces that are created when you engage the unmixed components processing. We're not going to use that right now. And so now I'm going to click OK and engage the process. And now my flute sound has been unmixed into 3 different component layers. And you can see this is the parent layer on top, bamboo flute. We call that the parent layer. Underneath that, we have the tonal layer, the transient layer, and the noise layer. And we can audition every one of these layers in isolation by hitting the solo button. So first, let's listen to the tonal layer. And then the transient layer. I'm sorry, we'll solo the transient layer. And then we'll solo the noise layer. Okay, so the transient layer This is the sound of, I suppose, the lips up against the mouthpiece of the flute. You get what you call a chiffy sound. And the noise layer is going to include all of the room noise, the reverbs and stuff like that, and some of the body of the sound or whatever. But again, this is the noise layer. Okay. Now, for people who are interested in noise reduction, let's be clear here that the unmix component process gives you a noise layer. And so any sound that you do the process on, you're going to get a noise layer. And this noise layer may actually be all of the noise reduction that you need to accomplish your task. So again, here's the sound. Okay. Now, when you split a file into 3 parts, without question, when you start manipulating the gain structure of these 3 different layers, you're going to wind up getting some artifacts. If you play the file with all of the layers at 0 dB, there are no artifacts. It sounds exactly the same as the original source material. But now listen to the tonal layer, and I'm going to ask you something after I play this. Okay, when we're doing processes in SpectraLayers, like denoising and stuff like that, we have to learn how to live with, a certain amount of artifacts, because that's life. That's just the way it is. And my question to you here is, listen to the tonal sound of this flute and ask yourself, is this sound artifact-free enough to be used in isolation? Listen again. And again, here's all 3. This is, I was really startled when I did this process, because I think that the tonal sound on its own is so artifact-free that it could actually be used in isolation with no problems at all. And it's amazing. Okay, that's great. Let's open another one of these sounds. Bass and effects. Okay, now look what just happened here. The bass and effects opened up as basically a new project up here. And I can save these out as SLP projects. Over here, I still have the bamboo flute. So I can go back and work on that if I want to. But now I have a tab open for this sound called bass and effects. Let's listen. Okay, turn my looper back on one more time. Okay, let's do the unmix components process on this sound. All right. The tonal layer. And the transient layer. And the noise layer. Okay, that's nice. Can I pull out the noise layer and achieve a pretty much artifact-free presentation? Sure. That's not bad. Notice that we can mix these 3 components any way we want to. Yep. Okay, that's great. We can do cool stuff with that. I'd like to show you another new feature. Say, for example, we wanted to work with the tonal component only. Okay, now say for example, I want to pitch this layer up. I'm going to go up here in the far upper left-hand corner, and I'm going to select the transform tool. The transform tool is what we use to move stuff in pitch and time as well, but we're just working on pitch right now. And I'm going to make the tonal layer the active layer. And again, I have my, make sure it's selected, sure, see, transform. So now I can hover over the layer, hit, I'm gonna press my shift key as I hold down the left mouse button, and now I can pitch this material up. First we have to check pitch move. So now this will allow me to pitch the material up, and I will go shift, and up we go. And I'll pitch it up some more. Okay, now notice this. When I pitch this sound up, it gets apparently louder. It gets apparently louder. I'm going to go back down, or I'm going to Command Z my way back to the beginning of this. Okay. Now listen to the volume difference when I pitch it way up. It gets pretty loud pretty fast. But now here's the new feature. Up here, we have a feature called loudness contour. Now, the loudness contour kind of simulates human hearing. So things that get pitched up are apparently louder to human hearing, and things that get pitched down are apparently softer. When I have the loudness contour switched on, then I can pitch material up, and the gain is reduced a little bit after I pitch it up, so that it doesn't sound too loud. And this is a great way if you're working with LUFS and if you're working with loudness curves and stuff like that. I can virtually guarantee you that the loudness contour, when it's engaged, when you're pitching stuff up, it's not going to change your LUFS. It's not going to change your volume structure, and it's also not going to surprise you and hurt your ears. And so again, this is with it off. We'll turn it off. Okay. Okay, pitched up. Now it gets loud. Okay, I'm going to back out of that. Turn loudness contour on. Pitch it up. Now it's going to sound the same, but it's just not going to be as loud. Great. Okay, I'm going to go back to the comments a little bit. The range control has checked in. Hey, Jay from New Haven. Can the unmixed components of an instrument, can it fundamentally unmix instruments? Yes, that's basically what's happening here. We are unmixing the sound into 3 different layers: tonal, transient, and noise. And then we have complete control over those 3 different layers. And you will learn later, I'll show you the different kinds of things that you can do with that level of control. Hey, J. Claude, hello from France. Hello, hello. Dobby Music says, nice. Tim says, wow. Yeah, great. Perfect. Let's open another one of these samples and see what happens. Blues piano. Okay, what does this sound like? It's Saturday morning over here, and what a nice lick for a Saturday morning. Just kind of kicking back. Yeah, that's great. This is Doug Colosio on piano. He's a Nashville session guy, and he's bringing the Americana blues thing here, and so let's make it blue because it's blues. So now it's blue. Now up here on the upper right, I can change the look of the material. I can adjust thresholds for minimum amplitude and maximum amplitude, FET size. and resolution and focus controls. The refinement control really gives you a nice view of the materials. And but the refinement control is just a little bit GPU intensive. So if you're going to use that, why then you have to have a nice strong GPU card in your computer. The one in my 2015 iMac here works pretty good, so that's what we're using. Let's listen one more time. Yeah, excellent. Hey, Recording Magazine is checked in. Ooh. That must be Paul Vanook, editor-in-chief of Recording Magazine. Now the pressure's really on, so we have to do a good job here. Let's unmix this piano sound into components. Here we go. See, it's pretty fast. It's already done. And it comes up with a nice array of colors. And let's talk about piano sounds for a second. They're highly complex. Highly complex. Piano sounds are one of the most complex structures of all musical instruments. What does the tonal layer give us? That's nice. What does the transient layer give us? Look at that. Those are definitely transients. And finally, the noise layer. Oh, wow, listen. I feel like I'm inside the piano. This is a kind of a surprise to me. I'm not sure if I've run this piano sound through this process yet. That's a little bit amazing. Okay, what can we do with this? Let's take a look at doing some effects processing using a new feature in SpectraLayers Pro 7. And this feature is VST3 plugin effect compatibility and transients. Okay, so watch this. I'm going to select the transient layer, and then I'm going to go up here to process and then down to VST3 effects. And now keep in mind, these are VST3 effects, not VST2 or lower, I guess. But if you want to use VST2 effects, then you have to export over to Wavelab, and we'll be doing that. And so, but let's check out this Liquid Sonics Lustrous Plates reverb. Okay, the reverb comes up, and I've got about a 50-50 mix, and I'm just going to crank the reverb time so that you can hear it. Let's preview it. All right. We have some reverb now placed on here. And let's process that. And let's see what that sounds like all rolled up in our mix. That's interesting. Okay, so that's another thing we can try. Let's open up another one. Open. Dry beat. Oh, this is the first time we're putting a beat through the unmix components process. And again, I'd like to point out that, look, all of my different projects that I've started, they're still here. My crazy piano reverb. And here's the new one, dry beat. Let's check out a new color, orange. Okay. Okay, super dry, super dry. Let's do the unmixed components process to this beat. Layer, unmixed components, and hit OK. Process goes by nice and quick. And here we are, tonal. Yeah. Transient. And noise. Great. The tonal layer, I think when it comes to drum loops, my experience has been that the tonal layer is where you're going to see most of your low frequency information come in with drums. And as we have here. And so, yep, there we are. And again, the transient layer. I'm always interested in doing stuff to the transient layer. I don't know why. Maybe it's because by putting reverbs or other time-based effects on the transient, it keeps the sound nice and clean, and it only affects the transient. So let's take the transient layer and move that over to Wavelab. Now, in SpectraLayers Pro 7, you can describe 3 different external editors, and I only have one described at the moment, and that's Wavelab. So let's go over there. So SpectraLayers engages Wavelab, and here's the sound. Whoops. Looks like I have some effects here that were left over from my last session. Let's turn them all off. And go back to start. There we are. Okay. Okay. What if I wanted to put a little bit of reverb on that transient effect? Watch. This is the Revelation reverb in Wavelab. I really like Revelation. You can do a lot of stuff with it. There we go. Okay, so now this is a time-based effect, and you're going to get a little bit of reverb that goes over the tail. So what we want to do here is we want to add some time to the end of this sound, and we're going to insert silence. And so I'll hit the insert silence generator, and I only want to generate, I don't know, 10 seconds I think would be, or 3 seconds would be fine. So we'll go for 3 and change, and we'll apply that. And let's take a listen to make sure that we have enough time to absorb the reverb tail. Okay, see, yep, there we go. Now this is the end. Boom. And so, watch. Now we go back now. Command all. Let's select the entire file. Select all. Now I am going to render that. I'm going to render it in place. It's really important when you're doing this process that you render in place, because this is what SpectraLayers looks for on the return trip. So let's render. Okay, let's make sure we got it. I'm sure we do. Sure, it's there. Next step, quit Wavelab. Now when I quit Wavelab, Wavelab asks me, do I want to save this file? I do and I don't. Sort of like, I want to save the file, but I don't want to keep the file. And so if I click save and quit, this file will be saved to the Wavelab cache, and those files remain on your computer for the amount of time that you have specified in preferences. I think I have 30 days specified in mine, so when I hit save and quit, this file will hang around for a month in my cache, and then it will be automatically deleted. So watch, save and quit. Now, SpectraLayers asks me if I want to import this affected file back now, and I'm going to click yes. Now watch, the transients are what's going to be affected, and right now you can see kind of clear, dry, yellow transients, but when I click yes, it comes back as reverb. Let's solo it. There we are. All the reverb is there. And look, the additional time is there too. So we've captured the reverb tail, which is really important because you don't want some kind of strange cutoff point there. You want your reverb tail to be captured. There we go. Yeah. One more time. Let's crank it up. That's pretty satisfying. I think I've basically, what it sounds like is, it sounds like I've put reverb on the snare drum of a mixed file just by applying reverb to the transient. And just so you know, I've never done this before. This is, I'm totally, this is, like I said, it's going to be without a net. And so here we are. Let's do one more of these and then we'll move on to a new feature. What comes after dry beat? We have envelope bass. Yeah. Guess who that is? I'll bet you can guess. That's Bill Laswell. That's a really highly compressed bass, and he likes to use these DoD envelope followers. And you can see that we've got envelope follower. Boy, those downbeat notes, check that out here. These are really crushing. That's just so slammed. I'm going to turn on the looper. Go back to start. One more time. That's amazing. Okay, process. Layer. Unmixed components. Okay, I'll take a minute to look at some of these comments coming back. Great tool for unmixing mono recordings and remixing to stereo. Yes, indeed it is. And Stereo 92, I have one more demonstration that I'm going to show you that takes a mono signal, and it's a 2-channel mono signal, left and right. But then, we apply stereo effects processing to it. Yes, indeed. Range control, thank you. Chris, do you have to save and quit to transfer back and forth between editors and SL? I'm not 100% sure. With Wavelab, I think that the answer to that is yes. That's the way you bring that stuff back, by quitting Wavelab. That is the way that you initiate the transfer to come back. I'm not 100% sure that that's the case, but it's a great question. And we'll be looking at the answer to that in more detail after the Hangout. I'll go back and ask Robin about that, and we will explore that issue. But yeah, great. That's a great question. But while we're on the topic, you can export any layer at any time from SpectraLayers Pro to the desktop, and it would follow that anything you transfer over to Wavelab, once it's in Wavelab and you process it, you don't necessarily have to go back to SpectraLayers Pro. You can save that to your desktop or anywhere on your computer. Okay, the tonal layer. That's about what you'd expect. Transient layer. Listen to that. Okay, now the noise layer. Right. Transient and noise together. I just thought of something. When you use unmixed components on, say, a guitar or a bass file that's been processed using stomp boxes, a lot of times the noise layer is the place where you're going to be able to capture sort of like the essence of the stomp box sound. Like, for example, if you run a guitar through, for example, like a big muff, and then you do unmixed components, the noise layer is going to contain sort of like the frequency response signature of that distortion pedal. And so that's something that I've noticed by the by. Okay, let's do one more little project here, and this is going to answer the question about mono to stereo. But first, let's go through. These are great comments. Let's see. Cross synthesis, yeah. Like I'm not sure if we use those kinds of algorithms. And probably not. Work in memory. I'm not sure what that means, Chris. Thank you, Chris. Classical software algorithms. Yes, unmixed elements is great. Can SpectraLayer 7 work inside of Pro Tools? Yeah, it depends what you mean by inside. I know that you can transfer layers and stuff back and forth between Pro Tools, pass them back and forth in the same way that in the same way that I'm passing layers back and forth from SpectraLayers to Wavelab and back. But I'm not sure about any more detailed kinds of interaction. But yeah, you can definitely transfer, stuff back and forth. AI is coming for us all, for sure. Okay, one more thing. Let's try this. Back out of here one step. Okay. I'm going to open this file called I Am Not a Monster. So I get requests for, can you make a monster sound? Can you make a monster sound? And the answer is, well, I'm not a professional monster sound maker, but we're going to give it a shot here today. And again, it takes me back to the point that SpectraLayers Pro 7 is far, far, far more than a repair and restore application. It's a sound design application. So listen to this. I am not a monster. I am a man. Okay. We are going to try and make a monster sound out of that. I am not a monster. I am a man. Okay. And before we go down the rabbit hole with this sound, I want to show you one more new feature in SpectraLayers Pro 7, and that is preserve formant. Now, when we think of formants in post-production and sound design, especially in pitch shifting, formants, we talk about formants in the human voice, the things that I suppose I'm not exactly sure scientifically how to describe formants, but let's start by sort of assuming that the formants in a vocal sound are kind of like the non-pitched elements. And when you pitch up a voice, you get this cartoony effect. People refer to it by different names. I think some people call it Mickey Mousing, or it just makes it sound like a cartoony kind of voice. And so I've selected my transform tool, and now I'm pressing down the shift key to freeze the file horizontally, and I'm pitching up. Right, I'm going to pitch down just a little bit because that was just a little over the top. Okay, now we can see this kind of cartoony Mickey Mousing effect here, and that is with the preserve formant option turned off. I'm going to do a Command Z and bring my file back to its original state. I am not a monster. Okay, and now I'm going to click preserve formant, and I'm going to pitch that up again. I am not a monster. I am a man. And so I think we get significantly less cartoony, I am not a monster, Mickey Mousing kinds of stuff there. And so that's a good feature. I am not a monster. It just makes the voice sound more natural. So I'm going to Command Z my way back to the original. I am not a monster. I am a man. Okay. Notice that I've left a whole bunch of space at the end of this file. And this is so that I can incorporate time-based effects if I choose to. And Jim has come in with a more Jim has come in with a more formal definition of formants. Formants are the resonances in the mouth, nasal, and throat cavities that determine the tonal characteristics of the voice. Yeah, sure. That's perfect. And formant preservation helps keep those sounds sounding, I guess the word would be realistic. I am not a monster. Okay. I'm going to grab the transform tool again. Now we're going to go for the monster sound, and we're going to start by pitching the sound down. We don't have to pitch down very much to get a great result. I am not a monster. I am a man. Okay, we're getting that kind of action figure kind of sound there. Pitch it down just a little bit more. I am not a... No, a little bit more. I am not a monster. A little bit more. I am not a monster. And a little bit more. I just can't decide. I am not a monster. I am a man. Okay, there we go. So now let's take this sound and unmix the components. And here we are with our components. Tonal. And transient. Mm-hmm. And noise. I am not a monster. I am a man. Mm-hmm. That's all three. And one more time. I am not a monster. I am a man. Now, the thing that strikes me here, and I noticed this before as I was kind of like trying this, is that you have to have the tonal, transient, and noise layers all playing in order to make the sound intelligible. Here's just tonal and transient. Or just the tonal and transient. I'm not a monster. I am a man. Yeah, I can almost make that out. But in this case, the tonal, transient, and noise layers, they really depend on each other. I am not a monster. I am a man. Okay. Now, let's go back and talk about making mono into stereo. This is a mono file, but it's a dual channel mono file. The left and right files are exactly the same. And what if I wanted to create kind of a more lush three-dimensional effect on the tonal layer? Let's grab the tonal layer and let's move that over to Wavelab. And here we are in Wavelab. And here we have a bunch of effects on here from our last session. But now look, here I have microshift. Now microshift is a stereo gen effect. It's like a chorusing effect. And microshift is just a fine effect. And I've got this mixed to 50-50. Let's move it up to about 60-70. And listen to that. And I'm going to mute the other two out. Okay. So clearly now we have the tonal layer has been imbued or whatever with an effect that makes the sound stereo. So now when I bring this back into SpectraLayers Pro, our sound will then be a stereo sound. Select all, render in place, quit Wavelab, save and quit, import back, and we're back. And here we are with our now stereo. Sorry. We're back with our stereo tonal layer. And we can mix that with our other stuff. I am not a monster. I am a man. So now it takes on more of a 3D presence. It's kind of I would say the word is kind of more enveloping presence. Let's grab the transient. Yeah, man. And take that over. I'm not a monster. Very quickly. To finish off our monster sound, we'll edit the transient in Wavelab. And I think I already have a couple of effects on here that might work. Microshift is on. We'll take that off. I've got a little delay and a little bit of reverb. Let's listen to it. Okay. That kind of gives you like a sense of place, kind of like a dungeon space or a wet basement space or an internal dialogue kind of strange place. So we will go select all, render, quit, save, import back, and now we're back. Put all three together. I'm not a monster. I am a man. Okay. And that's Monster Sound 101. Just take a minute and think of all the different crazy kinds of things you can do by unmixing sounds into components and then using your full array of effects processing, signal and effects processing, to take these sounds into another dimension. Again, VST3 plugin effects directly inside SpectraLayers Pro 7 and VST2 effects in Wavelab or the audio editor of your choice. And like I said, you can assign 3 different editors for round trip production in SpectraLayers Pro 7, and then just pick the one that's right for you and go over there and do your thing with it. Okay, everybody take a drink of water. I'll start. Excellent. Let's take a look at the comments. Is it mono-compatible? Of course. A mono file shows up as a single channel in the spectrum. This is what a mono file looks like when it comes in. When you bring in a mono file, you just see one side of it. And here I can choose my left side or my right side. And a stereo file comes in, 2 channels, and of course a multi-channel surround file comes in as with all of its channels showing. So, yep, the answer is yes. Yeah. Bob Ross. You know, Bob Ross is my hero. Everything I do, I try to sound like him. Yeah. Yep, it's the Bob Ross thing. That's great. You know, and I always say, stay calm and produce music. And Bob Ross had that nice calming effect. Actually, I'm not a calm person. I'm sort of like riddled with anxiety inside, but I have a pretend calm exterior that I use for these presentations. So hope I can pull that off. Speaking of right and left, we also, of course, have a waveform display that's available. And look, as you can see, these the colors, kind of pile up in the waveform display, and you can see, how they mix and match inside of the source material, and that's a great thing. Oh, and another thing, here's a new feature, and there's a little tab right here that you can click, and say, for example, you're working in not the right move. Say, for example, you're working in the full spectral view. If you want to, you can click this tab right here and get an instant 50-50 view of the spectrum where the waveform and the spectrum take up the same amount of space in real estate. And so screen space, real estate. And so if you are a symmetry freak like me, then all you have to do is hit this tab and you can see a direct 50-50 split between spectrum and waveform displays. Gerto, I see. The original voice was mono. After processing left and right, become phase shifted. That's the one, sure. What happens when putting it back to mono again? Well, I suppose what happens when you go back to mono sort of depends on what you did to it. In the case of the little monster sound I just did, I think that microshift is probably, it probably collapses down pretty good to a mono signal. So I don't think you would have much of a problem with that. So, in SpectraLayers Pro, that kind of collapsing, which of course can be done, that kind of collapsing is going to sound probably identical to the kind of effect that you would achieve with a non-spectrum editor, a waveform editor. So, yeah, I mean, this stuff will collapse down to mono pretty much in the same way that anything does. Okay, unmixed components. And we covered VST3 plugin support in SpectraLayers Pro 7 and the loudness contour, which is a new feature, which when you pitch up, the amplitude goes down a little bit, and when you pitch down, it comes up a little bit. And the preserve formants feature, which it worked pretty well on the Monster sound. And the preserve formants feature is easy to use, and it works well. Okay, let's move on to unmix stems. And I'm going to sort of clear the decks here and get rid of all of these projects. This will just take a second, and then we are going to go to unmixed stems. Now, unmixed stems is a whole different. It's a whole different ball game. I think that a lot of people have been wishing for an unmixed stems feature in SpectraLayers Pro 7, and now finally you have it. So let's open up something to work on, and we'll go back into our Hangout section here, unmixed stems, and let's try this. Hip hop. Let's listen to this.
Restless, might be on the mark for deathless. Stricken for the lyrical breakfast that exits my tongue. Poetical Jason in a place and killing any moment of wasted space and time. My mind's around is black like nines, the frontline soldier. Fighting the war, the battles for good over evil for the people that's poor. While looking money like a man who never had it before. I can't touch it, I can't clutch it. I need money today, not too much and just enough for me to pay my bills, my rent, my life, my phone.
Okay, I think you get the idea. And I was gazing over here at the comments while this was happening, and Omar says, I don't want to export them as individual files. I would like them as tracks inside the Cubase environment without going through the trouble of saving them. Yes, the answer to that is yes, you can do that. And we will be working with ARA here in a little while. ARA mode is where Cubase and Nuendo as well, Cubase and Nuendo, and SpectraLayers Pro 7 merge in a single editing environment. And ARA is a whole nother topic that we're going to be getting into shortly. So let's just listen to the beginning of this again, because that's the part that I think I want to concentrate on. Okay, that's great. Let's go straight to it. Unmix stems. Now, the unmixed stems dialog gives me the choice of grabbing vocals, piano, drums, and bass. Now, anything that I don't select goes down into a fifth layer called Other, and that stuff all collects there. It's important here to understand that you never lose any processes, you never lose any audio data in this process, unless, of course, you intentionally erase it, but you don't have to. All of the audio data it can be preserved all throughout the process. Okay, let's do the unmixed stems. And we're almost done already. Okay, now we have vocals, piano, drums, bass, and other stems extracted out from the hip-hop instrumentals main file. Let's listen to the vocals.
Restless, might be on the mark for deathless. Stricken for the lyrical breakfast that exits my tongue. Poetical Jason in a place and killing any moment.
Okay, and the piano. There's nothing in the piano file because this track doesn't have piano. Drums. Good. The bass. And other. And this is kind of where everything else lives. Okay, let's listen to the music without the vocals. You know what? There's so many cool comments coming in that I don't really want to stop and lecture you because, of course, you guys want to see SpectraLayers work. But I must admit that this is a really, really great discussion that's happening right now. And one of the big topics here is threshold of acceptability. Okay, could I use this to boost the vocals by a couple of dB? Why does this sound have so many artifacts in it? Is it useful? And these are like super important questions. And it's really exciting. But can I make an instrument louder or softer in a mix without noticeable artifacts? Sure, of course I can. You can just do lots of things. But with spectral processes like this, you always have to be thinking about threshold of acceptability. Threshold of acceptability. Is it good enough for you? Is it good enough for the client? And etc. So yeah, this is a fantastic discussion. Jim, being able to EQ individual elements separately, yes, definitely. In full disclosure, if you unmix into stems a track like this and you play them all back without changing the gain, it's going to sound exactly the same as the original. If you unmix the stems and then you take one of the stems and start EQing it and stuff like that, you are entering the world of getting the same kind of artifacts as you would get if you were doing any other process. Like, for example, increasing or decreasing the gain. But this is one thing for sure, is that if you take, like, say, for example, a vocal stem that you unmix out of SpectraLayers Pro 7, and you take it over to, say, for example, WaveLab, and you put a reverb on that is 100% wet, and then you bring that back and you mix the wet reverb with the original vocal, assuming that you haven't changed the gain structure of your stem layers, you're not going to hear digital artifacts. That reverb is going to completely absorb those, and you're going to be able to have a nice, clean, time-based effect available to you without any artifacts. Great stuff. Okay, so let's take a look at this vocal loop starting at the beginning. And this is kind of where we're going to start getting a little bit finicky here in particular. Check out the vocal. Okay, so I'm up here on the upper right-hand side of my interface, and I'm changing the FFT size, and I'm dialing in some refinement, and increasing the screen resolution. I know some people had some technical questions regarding FFT. When I'm using SpectraLayers, the only time I really think about FFT is when I'm focusing on my target. And so, I'm not really, super well versed in the math behind it, but I just, change my screen contrast controls until I get a nice, clear image like this. And bear in mind that these screen controls up here, when you change these, when you move them around, it doesn't affect anything with the tools. The tools work the same. These are visual-only kind of helpers. And you can get in there and, focus your sound and make it happen just the way you want to see it. Okay, one more time. Just a quick listen to the first little bit here. Okay, Unmixed Stems has done a pretty good job of giving us a clean vocal stem. However, there are things here, of course, that are not vocals, and like we're going to address those now. And so what I'm doing down here, I'm down in the lower right-hand side of the panel, and I'm going to create a new layer. And I'm just going to call this layer, let's make a name for it. I'm going to call it Recovery. So now I have a layer called Recovery, and I'm going to unmute this layer. Actually, I'm going to solo the vocals, and I'm going to solo the Recovery layer. Now watch. I'm going to take the Recovery layer, and I'm going to drag it up under the vocals layer. Not over, under, just like that. So now I have the vocals layer, and I have this layer called a Recovery layer. Okay. Now I'm going to set I'm going to set my attention on cleaning up this vocal track further. The unmixed stems feature is a great start. It does a lot more than we could do manually, even after hours and hours and hours of work. But now that we have this resource in front of us, we can do further cleaning. And I'm just going to clean up the first couple bars of this vocal, and I'll show you how I do that. I'm going up here to select the time selection tool, and I'm going to select all of the stuff that comes in right before the vocal kicks in. And it sounds like that. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to cut this stuff, but I don't want to completely get rid of it because, you know, I may want to remix this stuff back into the music track. I don't want to lose anything. And so I'm going to do Cut Special, and then I'm going to do this thing called Cut to Layer Below. And this is a new feature in SpectraLayers Pro 7. So watch. Cut to Layer Below. Nothing to cut. Well, I have to select the layer first. This gets me every time. Select Vocals. Edit, and Cut to Layer Below. Okay, now look what happened. I have basically deposited this stuff from the vocals layer down into the recovery layer. Okay, and the vocal layer, that's just dead air before the vocals come in. So that's cool. Let's go back and look at comments for a sec. Is it possible to export the individual stems and unmixed tracks? Absolutely. You can export any layer at any time and deposit that anywhere on your computer. No problem. So now we have like some more stuff here that we want to deal with, these clicky sounds. So the artificial intelligence algorithm in SpectraLayers Pro has interpreted these clicky sounds as vocal clicks. And so we want to get rid of those, or not get rid of them. We want to transfer them down into the recovery layer that I created. So here I have a tool called the Transient Selection Tool. And I'm going to hover my tool over the transient and just click it, and it's selecting the transient. Now look, it's selecting the transient, but it's not selecting areas that are inside the vocal. It's just looking at the transient, and it's looking for a clear shot at the transient material that is not embedded in the other sound. See, when I selected the second transient, my first transient went away. And that's because I failed to select this option up here, Add to Selection. I need to have Add to Selection engaged, and then I can make non-contiguous selections in the spectral graph. And you can see I'm pulling out these transients. Now here, I don't really need to pull the transients. I can just go in there and sort of like bulk delete all of this stuff. And we'll pick up here at this transient that comes in right before the vocals. And here, here, here. We'll take this one too. And we'll take this one here too. So now all of these transients are selected. And again, I can go to Edit, Cut Special, Cut to Layer Below. And now they are in my so-called recovery layer. Okay, and let's listen to the vocals now. Pretty clean. And remember, I didn't use the transient option to take these out. I'm just going to like bulk delete those. And so I'm going to take a time selection, cut it across this entire piece right here, and then go Edit, Cut Special, Cut to Layer Below. And now that is in the recovery layer. And the recovery layer can be mixed and merged back into the music. And so, like I said, importantly, that nothing is lost. You could get rid of it forever if you wanted to by using the eraser tool. But in this case, I'm thinking that I'm not really ready to kill anything off yet forever. And so I'm using the Cut to Layer Below feature, which is new in SpectraLayers Pro 7. So here's what we have so far. Not bad. And, of course, I can go in there and continue to work and use all the different tools, to get rid of transients and other things, mouth clicks, or not mouth clicks, but things that the artificial intelligence algorithm thinks are mouth clicks, but they're really not. They're something else. And so I can go in there, continuously make selections, continuously cut stuff down to my recovery layer until I get, the exact result that I want. Okay. Okay. Jim Griffiths, if you hold either Control or Shift, would this add to the selection? Yes. There are key commands for doing this, but I'm not using key commands today because I want you to be able to see everything that I'm doing. And if I do it all by key commands, then you can't really see it. But yeah, today I'm using I'm kind of staying away from key commands so that you all can see exactly what I'm doing up here. So let's open up a new song to unmix. Reggaeton. All right. Now, as you can see, I've opened up a new project here. This is an MP3. It comes up as its own layer. My other project is over here, so I can go back to it. But let's see what the reggaeton man has brought us to listen to. Oof, that's a little bit loud. I'm going to bring the volume down a little bit there. Okay, I think you get the idea. Layer, unmixed stems. Okay, this file is a little bit longer, so it's going to take a little bit longer. I still think that this process is super fast. I'm on a, let's take one more look at my computer here. And I'm on my iMac here, my late 2015 iMac with a 4 gigahertz i7 processor, 32 gig of RAM, and it handles it. So just so you know, that's my computer. Okay, we're almost done. 89, 92. Okay, here we are. Let's go through the layers. Vocals. Turn my volume back up a little bit. Again, there's no piano in this track. There's drums. And some bass. And everything else is in the other file. Oh, what's this over here? Okay, let's start over and or start the project over. Let's see what a 3 dB gain boost does to the vocals. Okay, I'm going to add another dB to the vocals, bring it up to 4. 5. And 6. Okay, now for the purposes of experimentation here, and we're trying to push this a little bit, I'm going to go back and play 0 dB again, and then I'm going to play 6. And when I play 6 dB up on the vocals, I would like you to sit back for a minute and ask yourself, is this artifact free enough for me? Okay, so here's vocals at 0. Okay, you've had enough time to hear that, I'm sure you have. Okay, 6 dB up. 6 dB up on the vocals. 'Cause does that work for you? Can SpectraLayers accomplish a 6 dB vocal boost on this track and do it in a legit way that doesn't sound like the singer's underwater? I think it sounds pretty good. I'm not in super analytical mode right now because I'm trying to maintain control over the presentation and my Bob Moss voice, but I think it works. I think I can pull off a 6 dB increase here and make it work. Sounds like less than 6. Okay, Jim can barely hear any artifacts even at 6. Jim just made me smile. Jim is hearing artifacts on the original stuff. Well, you can. That's really funny. It really cracks me up. But yeah, you could probably use SpectraLayers to get rid of that artifact, I'm sure. Excellent. Okay, that's really funny. Before I was talking about putting a 100% wet effect on anything and having it happen without any artifacts. Let's listen to the vocal again. Okay, let's take this vocal track over to Wavelab. And I'm going to put a 100% wet reverb on here. I'm not even going to bother adding more time to the end of the track because we're never going to get to the end of it anyway. So this is the Revelation reverb, and I'm going to open this up and go to 100% wet, and then I'm going to put in a lot of reverb so that you can really hear it. Now, the important thing here to remember is that we are at a 100% wet state. Try that again. Big reverb. 100% wet. I'll bring it down a little bit. Okay, great. Select all. Render. Quit Wavelab. Save and quit. And I'm going to abort this process. I made an error. Okay, in order to do this, we have to duplicate the vocal first. And so let's duplicate that. Now we have the dry vocal and we have the wet vocal here. Sorry about that. A little bit of a skid there. I'll live through that. Let's go back and do this in Wavelab as quickly as we can. There we go. Select all. Render. Quit. And save and quit. Import back, yes. Okay. So here we have the dry vocal. And the 100% wet reverb. And together. Okay, I don't need that much, so I'm going to bring this down. Remember, the vocal track is now 6 dB up. And so I'm going to bring the reverb back in at 5 dB down from 0. That's audible. Okay, here we go. The works. Well, that sounds amazing to me. We took the vocal track over to Wavelab. We put on a 100% wet reverb on a duplicate track, and then we brought that into the mix. We can boost our vocal by 6 dB, and I don't know. I'm happy. I'm happy as a clam over here. And Jim Griffiths, how far are you going to go? How far are you going to go with your spectral process? That's always the question. That's always the question. You're going to go with the your own personal threshold of acceptability. And now that Recording Magazine is here, is he still here? In last month's Recording Magazine, there was an article by a gentleman who was restoring some archival material by the band America. And he was talking about how he used noise reduction on acoustic guitars and how his threshold of acceptability was very, very stringent. And so he could only use just a little tiny bit. Yep, Jim, you're right. 100% effects, Won't affect the signal. It's a totally new thing, not an adjusted signal. That is perfectly correct. Perfectly correct. Yep. I think here we've done a yeoman's job, and so let's open up something new, and let's try something maybe a little bit more challenging. Here I have a thing called distant vocals, so I guess that's going to be more challenging. I can't remember what this sounds like, to be honest with you, but here we go. Yeah. Okay, I chose this use case because these vocals are so far back in the mix. And let's take a look at how SpectraLayers Pro 7 deals with this. Unmixed stems. Those vocals are way, way back there. And they're also mixed with a pad. And so that could be, that could add even more challenge to the situation. Soloed vocals. I think the vocals don't come in until about here, and so let's start here. Okay. So it just occurs to me now for the first time that there are actually two singers here. There's a singer in the higher register and a singer in the lower register. So let's use our frequency selection tool to cut a selection here. And this is the lower register vocal. Now, I can show you a new feature in SpectraLayers Pro 7. In SpectraLayers Pro 6, every time you cut a selection, like this, and then you want to hear something else, you have to cut a new selection, like this. But now in SpectraLayers Pro 7, we have an option called Transform Selection, which you see right here. When I select that, it puts some grab handles on the selection, and I can actually move it around while I audition it. That's a nice feature to have. Now, I could cut that layer out and deal with the lower register voice, and then I could go back and let's grab the frequency selection tool again and look at the vocal in the higher register. Now I'm beginning to wonder if that's actually vocals. So let's pull the selection down a little bit like this. Yeah, I'm not sure what that is. It could be some vocoded stuff. Not sure. Okay, let's go back and listen briefly to the different layers that we pulled. Piano. Yep. Now, SpectraLayers Pro 7 Artificial Intelligence stem or unmixed stems feature regarding the piano. If it's an electric piano like a Rhodes piano, it's going to have a hard time. Figuring that out. But if it's an acoustic piano with transients, what it's looking for is a piano-like transient at the front end. And so with this piano, even though it's not, I don't think it's a real piano sample. It sounds like, I don't know, maybe a Yamaha motif sample or something like that. There's enough transients there to get the artificial intelligence and SpectraLayers to believe that it's a piano sound. But it sounds like an electronic piano. And we were able to capture that because there's enough transients there to define it as an actual piano sound. Drums, we'll go over here where the drums really kick in so that you can hear it better. Yeah. Yeah, Jim, in a lot of cases, I've seen that vocal layers and pad layers get merged a lot. That seems to be a production technique that a lot of people use. And of course, SpectraLayers is going to bring along that pad along with the vocal. And I don't think there's I don't think there's a solution to that problem. It just it becomes too blurred. The bass. Gerto is asking if the piano stem means all the musical percussive sounds. No. The piano stem means that it's looking for actual piano transients that it's been trained to identify. An actual, piano transient from an acoustic piano. But if it's an electronic piano and it has a strong transient, then the algorithm is going to recognize that and pull it out. That's been my experience. And this is everything else. Okay, there's a whole mishmash of stuff in here. Piano transients, pads, effects, just lots of stuff. Let's listen to what everything sounds like playing at once, and then I'm going to pull the fifth category, the other category, out, and let's take a look at how that dries up the sound. Okay, let's take a look at some of the questions we have coming in. Will there be updates in the future to extract other instruments separately? I can't answer that definitively, but I can say with pretty much confidence that the algorithms themselves, the ones that already exist, vocals, pianos, drums, are going to be sort of trained harder and improved over time. And so the algorithms, I think, will get better. Adding new instruments, not sure. But you wish, though, right? It would be great. Like stamps of real instruments to compare with. Yeah, of course. Of course. When the artificial intelligence algorithm is being trained to discover these things in sounds, a lot of times the amount of samples that it's exposed to make its, decision or whatever, can be it can go up into the tens of thousands of different samples. And so, they keep continuously hitting and training the algorithm until it just gets better and better. Let's do one more. And breathy, distant vocals. Let's do pop rock. Okay, you guys ready to rock? Let's listen to this.
Spend some time with you. I wanna spend some time with you. How can I say I hear a song that sounds like you? Time with you. How can I say I hear a song that sounds like you? Is there something I could say I didn't say?
Okay, I know you guys are waving your big lighters over your heads right now, but put those lighters down and pay attention, because I'm going to do unmixed stems on this project here and see what happens. Here we go. And we're done. Okay, let's see what we came up with here. I'm going to move in a little bit here.
I wanna spend some time with you.
Listen to how we're getting complete silence between these blocks of vocals. That's something that I haven't seen yet with any of our demonstrations. I mean, this is blank space in between these, and so that's pretty impressive.
I wanna spend some time with you.
Wow.
How can I say I hear a song that sounds like you?
Wow, it even took the reverb.
'Cause I wanna spend some time with you.
Wow, super impressed. Piano, well, there isn't any. Drums. Kind of chuggy. Bass. Not bad. That bass has a lot of effects. The bass has a lot of effects on it. They did not spare the reverb on the bass on that one. Oh, the guitars. Here we go. I'm just going to let this play for a minute. Yeah, it sounds like there's a kind of like a string machine pad up in with those guitars that got in there with that, which is fine, I guess, right?
Something I could say I didn't say.
Wow. I mean, I'm representing Steinberg here, and I'm supposed to be pro SpectraLayers 7, but believe me when I tell you that I'm not kidding you when I say that I'm impressed by how this vocal was extracted. It was super clean, super clean. So no lie, right? This is real. One more time, just check out the silent spot between those blocks.
How can I say I hear a song that sounds like you?
Yeah. Recording mag, maybe too deep for today, but I assume you could take time and grab the snare hits bleeding into the other and then mix them back to drums. Yes. And, the big difference between SpectraLayers Pro 6 and SpectraLayers Pro 7 is that, SpectraLayers Pro 6 is all about manual extraction tools, and SpectraLayers Pro 7 leans more toward automatic processes. And, since this is a new features demonstration, we're going to be leaning more toward the automatic processes, which, kind of sadly, but not really, kind of like ignores the manual processes a little bit, and because we're giving precedence over the automatic stuff, and so yeah, this was truly impressive. I really enjoyed that, and again, nobody in the world is super experienced at using SpectraLayers Pro 7 right now because it's so new. I made 15 videos for Steinberg over the development of SpectraLayers elements, and then I did some videos for SpectraLayers Pro 7 for the release, and so I was sort of learning these features on the fly as I went. But every time I go into these features, I get more and more impressed. And so that's it for the unmixed stems portion for now. Keep in mind that the unmixed stems feature here is an automatic artificial intelligence assisted process that kind of serves as a replacement for the manual tools in previous editions of SpectraLayers, in particular the harmonics tool, which is the tool that we would grab most often when we would be extracting vocals. And believe me, you could sit with a rock track like this and use the harmonics tool on this for like a year, and you still wouldn't get the same amount of quality that you can now achieve with the artificial intelligence enhanced unmixed stems function. And so consider the unmixed stems process as kind of like a Kickstarter process. It might get you 80, 90, 95% there. It might get you 99% there. But then for the last 9 yards or whatever, that's when you dig in to the manual tools to refine your process, like you saw me do when I was removing content, to the layer below and stuff like that. And again, as people on this discussion have already remarked, there is a threshold of acceptability. Lots and lots of the things that I did here today to me, were acceptable. In particular, doing gain changes on individual instruments, which is something that you can do in the mastering process, and then adding 100% wet effects. So we got make a new layer for recovery and drop that stuff down into it. That works beautifully. Cut to layer below. It's a new feature in SpectraLayers Pro 7. Works great. You can merge the recovery layer back in layer anywhere you want. And the more you work at this stuff, the better you get. And so that concludes the pattern finder portion of this demonstration. And we've been at it now for an hour and a half, and this would be a good time to take a 3-minute pause. And so we're going to go into a 3-minute pause, and I'm going to put up my 3-minute pause sign here and make it really big so that everybody can see it clearly. And I'm just going to keep rolling, and I'm not going anywhere. I'm just going to go and do my thing. and then I'm going to come right back in 3 minutes, and then we'll go for another round, okay? So take a 3-minute break, get a beverage, do a nature call or whatever, and then come on back in 3 minutes, and we'll see you soon, okay? See ya. Okay, I'm back. And here we are. Here we are for another round. And, yeah. I see the comments are coming in. Gerto, thank you so much. Nice seminar. Thank you very much. Thank you. Lots of discussion about lots of things. It's really great to see you all here today. Thanks for checking in. Let's get started. Oh, look at this. This is a drum machine that a friend of mine invented. It's electroacoustic. These needles right here, when they hit the bar on the plus side, that's when the sound triggers. It's crazy. Back to our regularly scheduled event. We are going to go straight into ARA, which means that we are going to quit SpectraLayers. And look at all these projects that we've stacked up. Look at that. Here's the reggaeton one. Hip-hop. We're working hard. And I'm going to load Cubase. And here we are. Cubase enters the picture. Yeah, Chris, that is a wild machine. It is wild. It sounds amazing. I'm going to open this project, and it's called Big Room. And it's looking for data. Looking for data. Here we go. Now I have a single drum loop here in my Cubase environment. Let's listen to it. I'm going to turn it up a little bit. There we go. Okay, now that drummer, believe it or not, is Steve Ferroni, and he recorded that at a place in Burbank in California called O. Henry Studios. It was for a drum loop library that he did, and he recorded his drum kit on this big orchestral soundstage. It was really beautiful. And if you listen to this drum loop, listen to the low end, the kick and everything, there's no muffling. His drums were completely empty, no pillows or blankets inside, and the kick drum just completely blooms in this sound. And it's really pretty. Now, my objective here is that I want to pull some of the bloom out of that kick drum and tighten it up so that it's kind of a more, I don't know, let's say contemporary, dry R&B sound. And I'm going to do that using SpectraLayers, but I'm using SpectraLayers in Cubase in ARA mode. If I double-click the drum loop, you can see that it comes up here in the editor. And you can hear it. In particular, listen to this kick drum and all of the decay that happens from here to here. That's a lot of decay. Now, I'm going to take you through a process here. Let's start by saying that ARA is a way to use SpectraLayers in the Cubase environment. And let's also say that it is a very new thing to the marketplace. And it's also very complicated. It's a very large team of people that is working hard to bring these two programs together into the ARA, or to bring SpectraLayers into the DAW environment. And when I think of SpectraLayers, the ultimate goal of SpectraLayers is to, in addition to all the great things it does, is to make a seamless environment in the DAW so that you don't have to be bouncing back and forth from program to program. It's a workflow thing. And so here I'm going to show you an ARA workflow that works. And there's another thing here, and this is kind of a caveat, okay? The thing that I'm going to show you right now is going to be like the workflow process that I'm going to show you is going to be obsolete probably before the end of the year, because there are improvements on the table right now that I dare say are probably going to make it into the marketplace before the end of the year. Of course, I can't openly say exactly what those are, but for now, watch the way that I'm doing this process and understand that in a few months it's going to be obsolete. But this is a very, very interesting process. So check this out. What I want to do is I want to isolate the kick drum in Cubase so that I can do signal effects processing on that. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to create a new audio track. Now I have the original drum track and I have my new audio track. Now I'm going to draw a region into this audio track. That's exactly the same length as the loop. Now, bear in mind, this is not an audio track. It's a region. And what I want to do is make it into an audio track. So I'm going to go Edit, Render in Place, and I'm going to render this region out into a new audio track. And here it is. It's an empty audio track. And this is what I'm going to use. This is the track I'm going to use to deposit the kick drum on. And so with our new audio track in place and rendered out, I no longer need this template. I can just sort of get rid of it. So I'm going to remove that, and now I'm left with the drum loop and the empty track. Okay, I'm just going to move my locator to the left. Okay, now we're ready for the next step. I'm going to select both of these, the drum loop and the blank. And I'm going to open up my audio editor a little bit bigger like this. And then I'm going to perform audio extensions and SpectraLayers. Now, this is the critical moment. Watch what happens. SpectraLayers is now being loaded in Cubase. And the traditional Cubase audio editor is now replaced by SpectraLayers Pro 7. Okay, I can play the drum track, and I can play the empty track. I've got them both. Okay, now the operation begins. This is the SpectraLayers focused part of the presentation. Let's get some colors going here. And let's isolate the kick drum on its own track, layer and track. I'm going to select the frequency selection tool. And then now watch. I'm over here on the right-hand side where my frequency scale is, and I'm going to scroll up until I can see those kick drums really clearly. And I don't really have to focus it, but I'm just going to focus it anyway a little bit. There we go. Now I'm going to take, again, I'm making sure I have the right tool, frequency selection tool, and I'm going to select on what I think is the kick drum only. And this looks like a really kind of clear representation of the kick drum. So let's start here. Okay. Now I have it in loop mode. Let's go to the new transform selection feature and kind of open up that selection a little bit. So I can hear more signal, more kick. Ooh, now listen, you can hear the snare. The low end of the snare is starting to sort of bubble up into my selection, okay? So I'm going to pull my selection size back down. Until the snare drum basically fades out of the picture. Okay, good enough. Okay, now with my selection made, I'm going to cut the selection out. And just one moment, I'm going to undo that for a second. I just want to make sure that I have everything set just right here. I'm going to deselect that. And grab my frequency selection tool one more time. And this time, see, if I make a selection, there's fades here above and below. And so here I have a frequency fade of 112 hertz. And I realized when I made the selection, when I auditioned it, and when I cut it, I realized that like I wasn't cutting hard enough. And I think the frequency fade kind of defaults to the last place where you left it. And I think I left it at a place where it's a little bit wide. And so what I want to do is I'm just going to deselect this selection. And again, I could use keyboard commands to do this, but today I'm just doing it with my mouse so that you can see exactly what I'm doing. I'm going to take this frequency fade option and I'm going to bring it all the way down to 0. And then I'm going to reselect on that kick. There we go. And I'm going to go back to transform selection, and I'm going to tease it up a little bit so that I don't want to hear any of the snare, or maybe just a little tiny bit is okay. Okay, that's good enough. Now let's try this again. I'm going to cut that selection out, and there, look, see, that's a much better cut. Now that I moved my fade controls down to 0, I basically emptied out that part of the spectrum. Okay, now with that done, I'm going to go over here to my empty audio track. And you can see, here it is, empty. There's nothing there. My selection is here. And I'm going to paste that in. There we go. There. I'm really glad I took the extra time to go back and redo that, because now we have a much more comprehensive and loaded kick drum file. So for the moment, our work in SpectraLayers is finished, and so I'm going to drop this down a little bit. And now we can listen to both selections here. We have the big room drums without the kick. You can hear it a little bit in there. And here we have the majority of the kick sound. And I'm just going to go back down here and deselect my selection. Even though I don't have to, it just makes me feel safer. Okay. Yep. Okay. So now, there we go. Now if I play both together, it's the exact same thing as the original file, except now I've got my kick drum on its own independent channel. And channel, not layer. Down here it's a layer, up here it's a channel. And so now let's work on that kick. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to select my Slate virtual mix rack. And the plugin opens up. And here I am in my nice suite of Slate product. And they have a killer gate. I'm warning you, this stuff is... This is an amazing gate. This gate came out, I think it came out in 2020, but they came up with a nice set of gates for their virtual mix rack. So now I'm going to select a preset kick deep lead smooth, and I'm going to crank the release time all the way up, and there's no change. But as I bring the release back, it tightens up that kick. Listen, this is the release time at 50 milliseconds. Now, as I turn my release time up and make it longer, that kick starts breathing out a little bit. Up at 400 milliseconds, still nicely dried out. Again, here's full bore. Look at that, boomy, but in a nice way, in a great way. But if I dial that back to about here, now I've tightened up my file. And there we are. Let's tighten it up just a little bit more. Whoops. There we go. So, both are great. The original Steve Ferroni drum loop has the full-on kick drum decay, and the my processed version, excuse me while I pour a coffee here, has that kick drum really nicely tightened up. And we did that with SpectraLayers in ARA mode. Okay, I am going to go into the comments here, and range control likes that I use my mouse. Okay. Let's see here. Filter roll-off. How steep is it? I'm not sure what you're talking about. Brick wall algorithm. Okay. Why is there no visual graphic in the second track after separation? Because we haven't built it in yet. And I think, I'm not entirely 100% sure, but in the future, you're going to be able to see that waveform there. Okay, that said, watch what happens when I render this out. If I render this in place, I'm rendering it in place. Now look, when I render it in place and remove the process track, now the waveform is drawn. There, see? It draws the waveform on render. In the future, I think, I'm not 100% sure, but I think that it's going to render out an image of a waveform in that file. But again, I'm not 100% sure. But when you render it out, why, then it shows up. And the other thing, as long as we're on the subject, if I select both of these again, and if I remove the extension, then we go back to the original waveform. Of course, this doesn't change. The new track doesn't change because we've already rendered it. But now if I go back up to the original big room sample and mute this kick, I'm assuming that we're gonna come back to our original file. Yep. Right. And so now I've arrived back at my original source material. Now, this is one of the beautiful things about ARA and SpectraLayers in the Cubase environment in ARA mode, is that the changes get saved with the project. And so when you open the project, SpectraLayers opens, your edits are sort of, what's the word for it, instantiated into the project. But no matter what, you can do version after version after version, and you always have the option of going back up and removing that SpectraLayers extension to get back to your original source material. So there we go. So, Gerta, hope that answers your question. Thank you, Recording Mag. Yeah, let's look at some more of these comments. Yep. It's like a stub placeholder. Okay, yep. You can still hear the transient harmonic of the kick, but not the boom. I know, that's really great. And that's not really because of SpectraLayers, that's because of the gate that was used on it. Has a smart, it's a good gate. It's a good gate. Can you bounce it instead of render? I haven't tried it, but I am going to guess that yes, you can. Because just like any other project, when you open your DAW, say when I open Cubase and all this stuff is in there, SpectraLayers is running in the background in ARA mode, I don't see any reason why everything wouldn't render out with your bounce or render. And so I'm assuming yes. Are there other DAW that supports ARA with SpectraLayers? I am not an expert on this, and so I'm going to say I don't know. I know that other editors, not DAWs, but even other editors, support ARA. ARA was developed, I believe, by the maker of Melodyne. Is it Solemnity? Is that how you say it? Solemnity. I think that's they are the inventors, and they're collaborating across manufacturers to incorporate ARA functionality into a variety of different applications. And so I guess, are there other DAWs? If not now, then certainly in the future, because I think ARA is a pretty significant development in the DAW universe. I don't think ARA is going anywhere. I think it's just going to get better and better from here. And again, excuse me for just one moment. I will say this again about ARA. The process that I just showed you, to me, it's not really a clunky workflow. It's a nice workflow. But in the very near future, I think before the end of the year, the workflow that I just showed you is going to be superseded by a new workflow that will be better. Again, I can't say more, but but it gets me to thinking that even in a case where it's easier to do something with an improved edition, this way is not bad at all. I mean, I find it to be easy and actually kind of pleasant. Okay. We are still working on ARA, and now I am going to try to show you something in ARA mode that uses an old feature of SpectraLayers Pro and not a new feature. We have a thing in SpectraLayers Pro that not a lot of people know about because it's not really in your face. You don't see it a lot, and that's called casting and molding. And this is something that I think you might find a little bit insane. So stick around for this one because, ice cream girl. So we are going to try something a little bit crazy here. And I'm going to open up this project called Base Molder. And watch this. This is an older feature in SpectraLayers. I can't remember the version that this feature was introduced in, but it's this is an interesting thing. It's a sound design feature. So check this out. Thanks a lot, everybody, for sticking around. We've been at it now for 2 solid hours, and we're just getting started, so excellent. Okay, now I'm going to turn the volume down a little bit because I don't want to blow your head off. And let's start by listening to a couple different things. Okay, this is a MIDI file, and I want to see the whole thing. There we go. And I'm going to move my markers here a little bit. Now, this is a Pad Shop pad, and open up Pad Shop here and give you a look at this. Pad Shop is insane. Let's listen to this pad that I have set up. Okay, this is a Pad Shop drone that is being played live through Pad Shop in Cubase. And there's not a lot I can do with the MIDI file inside SpectraLayers, and so I'm going to render this out. And we're going to render in place. Okay, now we have our Pad Shop pad all rendered up, and I can mute the MIDI file and position my cursor over here where it belongs. And there it is. Okay, now let's take a listen to this item here. And this is kind of a vocoded thing that's really heavy on bass. And again, I think that when I played the Pad Shop pad for you, this thing was not muted. And so you really need to hear the Pad Shop sound soloed. And so that's what this is. There you go. Okay, and this is the vocoded file. Okay, now watch this. I'm going to grab both of these files and I'm going to open them in SpectraLayers. Okay, there we go. We've got the bass and we've got the pad shop pad. And sounds like this. Okay, now, it might take you a minute to get your mind around this process because I still, after years, I haven't really invented the correct way to describe what you're going to see right now. But I am going to change the pad shop file so that it takes on the characteristics of the vocoded drone. And basically what I'm doing here is I'm using this, I'm using the rhythm and the texture and the amplitude of that as like a cookie cutter that I'm going to place over the top of the pad shop file to basically create an imitation of the bass file using the amplitude and frequency characteristics. It's like putting a cookie cutter of one file over the top, and everything that's outside of the cookie cutter you sort of, just get rid of. And so in this process, the first thing you do is you select the file that you want to change. And then I'm going to select Process, Imprint. Now, the imprint process that I want to use is called mold. Cast is a different kind of process, and we're not going to get into that one today. Today, we're just doing the mold process. And so I'm going to bring my margins down to a really, really low level, which gives you absolutely the most effect. And so the source file is the bass file. This is the source. And again, with this process, just like any process, you select the file that you want to change. That's your destination file. And so let's do the process. Super quick. Okay, now listen to what happened to the pad shop file. Okay, and just as a point of reference, let's go back up and listen to the original pad shop file. See, there's no rhythmic component in it. But here, with our molding process done, we have now a rhythmic component built into the pad shop file. And so when we combine that with the bass file, I have so many lights on here, hold on. Mute solo, mute solo. Okay, now I've got the affected pad shop file and the original vocoded file playing together. So you can see what happened. We used it's the Slate bass vox file. We used that as the source file, or cookie cutter, to put over the top of the pad shop file to make these two files merge and sort of conform together. It's in a way, it's a lot like a vocoding effect, and that is the molding process here in play. And again, we are in ARA mode, and so everything you do in ARA mode, it just makes more sense because you're in the DAW environment, and you can get everything done in there without having to render and do stuff like that. It's SpectraLayers Pro 7 and your DAW, in this case Cubase, they become one entity. Okay. So I have one more ARA thing to show you here, and this harks back to a demo video that I made about repairing the sound in an acoustic guitar track. I'm going to close this project and open another one. And I'm going to back out a little bit here and find this. Ooh, I think I lost it. Hold on. Here we go. So let me get this open here. Okay. Now here I have two copies of the same file. One is up here as a safety copy, and the other one here is what we're going to operate on. And let me play this. Yeah. So this is an acoustic guitar track which has a rather obvious flaw, and that flaw is the squeaks. Listen to it again. Okay. The reason why I'm showing this file again, I'm revisiting this, is because there was a gentleman who had some questions about different aspects of this process, and I'm going to address every one of those concerns here as we work. And so I'm going to select the squeaker, I call it squeaker, and I'm going to go Audio, Extensions, SpectraLayers. And now the squeaker file, here we are, it's open, and you can see it, colors look good. Let's focus it a little bit. Okay, now, here you can clearly see the defects. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 distinct defects. 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'm going to go over here on the right side and hover over the frequency scale. And look, I'm trying to open this up a little bit, but I lose sight of it. And the reason why I lose sight of it is because I have this feature engaged over here called lock spectrogram to 0 hertz. Now, with lock spectrogram to 0 hertz turned off, I can use my hand tool and, move this up and down so that I can see pretty much anywhere in the file. Now, on the other hand, if I have the frequency unit set to lock spectrogram to 0, then 0 dB, the very low end of the file, that always stays anchored at the bottom. So I can scroll up like this and see everything in the lower frequency range, which, depending on what you're trying to get done, choose the one that works best for you. So in this case, I want to turn lock spectrogram off. I'm going to go back over here. I'm going to expand so I can see the defects clearly. And I'm also going to, here I'm just hovering over the spectrum, and I'm using the scroll wheel to stretch this out a little bit so that I can see the the target areas that I want to work on more clearly. Okay, now, this is where these screen contrast controls come in really handy, because what you want to do is you want to see only the sounds that you want to change. And here, the sounds that we want to change are the sounds with the highest amplitude. And amplitude is brightness. And look how bright this is right here and here. These are the bright sounds. And notice that they're super short. They are very, very short sounds. And so basically, it's fair to say that this sound basically is ruined by very, very tiny, tiny artifacts in the file that that basically just overwhelm the sound. Okay, the squeaks are super short and they're super loud. And over here on the upper right of the panel, this is where we use our screen contrast controls to try to get it so that we can only see the loudest aspects of the sound. And so, as you can see, as I move the max amplitude slider to the right, pretty soon you can only see the worst of the defects. If I back off on this a little bit, the second worst defects come into place. Look, these are the worst. And if I back off a little bit more, these are the second worst. And then everything else, they just start coming back in until finally, the spectrum starts filling up. And so let's set this to about here and focus our attention on these areas. The worst of the worst and the second worst. And again, I'm going to refine up my view a little bit more. And there we go. Okay, I'm all dialed in. Now, ordinarily I could do this in 5 seconds, but I'll take a nice slow way to explain this to you so that you can totally understand what I'm doing. So that answers this one gentleman's question is, what do these controls on the right, these contrast controls, why are they there and why are they important? Now, the next thing is getting rid of these sounds. And so here I've grabbed my eraser tool. And I will tell you right now, the eraser tool is, I don't know, let's say it's one of the top, for repair, it's one of the top 5 tools in SpectraLayers. The eraser tool is extremely important. In the case of SpectraLayers Elements, which is more of like a budget-priced application, the eraser tool is worth, just that tool alone is worth the cost of admission, which is really low. And so now I'm going to just hover up a little bit more and open this up. Now, the eraser tool, I can program this for size. And so this is a large tool. And I can make it small. Now it's smaller. And I'm going to just big it up just a little bit. Aspect ratio goes from a vertical oval to a horizontal oval. I'll go with a slightly horizontal oval. Hardness is sort of like, your radius of intensity. In the very center, you're going to get 100% cut, and then it kind of fades out as you get to the edge of the tool. I'm going to go for about 80. And finally, the attenuation, which I have set to minus 12. And so everything I do is going to have a 12 dB cut. And I've done this a few times, and I think that a 12 dB cut might not be enough. So I'm going to go up to 16. Now, watch. These are the problem areas, again, that we've identified. And you can see the tool is ready to attenuate because it's attenuating under the, you can see what's going to happen. It's kind of a predictive thing. It's looking at the area and it says, okay, I'm going to attenuate by this much. So all I have to do is draw over the worst problem areas and the second worst. And again, this is an operation that you can do literally in seconds and in SpectraLayers Pro, but I'm going a little slower so you can see the process. And clients love this. Acoustic guitar playing clients who they have a take that they really, really like. If it wasn't for that squeak, everything would be perfect. And it's like, well, now I recorded the sound with reverb, which was a mistake. And I tried to go back and get the original dry source file so that I could fix it in Cubase and then apply reverb on a bus. But sadly, I couldn't find it. Kind of a data management problem over here. But this is, I think, an extension of the reverb that's coming off of the squeak. So I'm just going to draw over the top of that and dust that off. And now I'm going through. And notice I haven't even really auditioned anything yet because, I mean, these areas are like egregious and they just need to be dealt with. And so basically I'm doing dead reckoning, as they would say. Dead reckoning, meaning that I'm not listening to the result. I'm just watching it on the spectrum. And, I have many layers of undo, so I can always go back and undo this stuff. And so, again, here, this looks like a reverb tail. We'll get rid of that too. Okay, now let's back off on this. Oh, did we miss something? We did. A couple more squeaks here. Mm-hmm. Good. Okay, I think you get the idea. Okay, let's bring our contrast controls back so that we can see our work. And let's have a listen. Okay, wrong file. Okay, there was another gentleman who had a hard time hearing the difference between the effect. So maybe that's why I've spent a little extra time on this process in order to create a more comprehensive and clear example. So this is the old. Okay. And those squeaks are ripping your head off. And this is the new. One more time. Old. And new. Great. Well, I think you can hear the difference. And there are a couple of points that I would like to make about this. And the first point is that there is no de-esser that is going to do a job like this. It's just not going to happen. In the time it takes you to fiddle around with the de-esser and get a mediocre kind of so-so result that is pushing the threshold of acceptability, you can go in here in ARA mode, in your DAW, in SpectraLayers Pro, and just get rid of it with the eraser tool, without even really stopping to audition the results. You just go in there, find the spots, hit them with the eraser tool, and it's all over. You've done it. And this is my other point, and this is a point that I learned while I was doing this process, is that an extremely small transient that goes by in milliseconds can completely obliterate your sound and ruin it. And in the case of an acoustic guitar string squeak, these sounds in this case are extremely short. And let's just for a minute, if I'm not talking too much, I want to talk about the physics of this. So when your finger is over the top of the acoustic guitar string, it's kind of like, there's kind of like a resistance there. It's kind of glued there. Then you slide with your finger and your string slides along the string, and that gives you a squeak effect. But the problem in the squeak is not rubbing your finger across the string. That's not the problem. The problem is the moment when your finger releases from the string and it creates an extremely short momentary blast of sound. I mean, the rest of the squeak, as your finger goes up the fretboard, up the string, you can live with that. But it's that millisecond when the fingertip breaks contact with the string that creates the kind of bright transient that we heard here. And after I went in and fixed this file, I just sat back and I thought to myself, how amazing it is that a little transient can make such a big difference. And also that since that little transient is so tiny that you can get rid of it with such pinpoint accuracy, the artifacting there is, non-existent. You're just not going to have a problem with that. Okay, hope I didn't talk too much there. Let's go back and look at some comments. Pearl Jam, yay. Oh, boy. The range control. Thank you so much, Mr. Range Control. Range Control, where are you anyway? Where are you? I'm sorry if I forgot, but where are you sitting right now? Yeah. The integration with Cubase is good. Left and right are linked. This is true. Gerto, yes, left and right are linked in this process. However, they can be unlinked. If you want to operate on one side of a file, select the file. Here I'm selecting left or right. If I select the left side of the file, then I can, let's just make a cut here. And it cuts right out. Deselect. Now I've operated on just one side. See, you might be fooled for a second because the selection is made on both channels, but it's just a phantom effect there, and so it doesn't operate on it. So yeah, you can operate on one or both channels. Keep a slightly wider range so you can see more of what you're doing. Yes, of course. And this is why the zoom tools, both horizontal and vertical, are so important in SpectraLayers Pro 7. To your point, let's undo that. And deselect the selection. And I'm going to undo one of these fixes. I'm just going to keep undoing until... Again, I could be doing this with key commands, but there we go. Okay. A little more. Okay, see here. This area, this is the last area that we fixed. Now, how much can I see? I'm going to make this real estate as large as I can, and then I'm going to zoom in. Now, remember, this here is the artifact or whatever the problem. And... you can see the amplitude there. So how far can we zoom in? Here I'm using my scroll wheel, and here I'm scrolling over the frequency. I'm going to use my hand tool to get up in there. Again, now remember, this right here is the problem. That's the problem area. And let's go down to one channel. And I can expand it out even more. I can grow it up even bigger. So this is the problem area right here. And you can see by how bright it is that it's a lot louder than everything else. So then the eraser tool, now this is interesting. The eraser tool does not expand when you expand the collections, the selection. So, before I was making my operation with my little eraser tool, but now, look, this eraser tool is sort of like engulfed by the problem area. And so I think it's kind of convenient and important to understand that the eraser tool stays the same size even when your selection, the visual representation of your selection is huge. The brush stays the same size. So now I could, grow my brush up bigger and then, start attacking the file. Now here, I'm still adjusted for 16 decibels of reduction, but I'm going over the transient. I'm still surrounded by it, into it. And look, as I keep clicking on this, you know, this is so much like photo editing. If you have an overexposed picture, the pixels are blown out. So in other words, if you have a blown pixel, and if you change the exposure from bright to dark, that's all you're going to get is different shades of gray, because a blown pixel is useless. Just like a clipped section of audio is useless, because if you have a clipped section of audio and you reduce the gain of it, you're not going to be able to bring it back to its original state. You're just, you know, attenuating the mistake. But now this file was not clipped at all. And so these peaks, these transients that you see are not the result of clipping, because, you know, when I recorded this file, it didn't clip. So look, as you go in here and teeny tiny work your way through this, the white gets changed to a different color, and that different color represents a real frequency that exists. It's not like a blown pixel. I mean, look, if this were a blown pixel, then this white, I could never turn this white to blue. The white would always stay a shade of gray. It would go from white to gray to black. And so, you know, working on here like this is the atomic particle, you know, way of doing this. And so, believe me, you don't have to be this specific, but I'm glad you pointed that out, because it is important. It is important. Morrow, hey, how long have you been here, Morrow? I haven't seen you yet. Did you just show up? The most accurate I've seen. It is hyper accurate. It is, you know. And again, you know, the more work you put into this, the better you get, and it's worth it. It's really worth it. And you know what? It's fun. You know, it's fun. Now, with this level of integration, ARA, in you know, the ARA mode, you know, merges the SpectraLayers paradigm with the Cubase paradigm. This is important. And with this level of integration, then I would venture to say that ARA becomes a deciding factor in DAW choice. Okay, you know, you're looking through the different DAWs, you know, should I use DAW X, Y, and Z? And then you come across Cubase and you say, wow, you know, what can Cubase do that other DAWs might not be able to do? And this level of integration with SpectraLayers and Cubase, well, this could be a deciding factor in DAW choice. I mean, seriously, this is serious business. And in my business, I record a lot of clients who play acoustic guitar. And look at this last little bright star here. The shining star. Look at that. If I hover over this, it reveals the goodness. So you can just get rid of where it's too loud. And yeah, what's this? Whatever it is, it's softer now. But my clients, when they roll out an acoustic guitar part and they come back into the control room and hear it, and one of those squeaks, you know, slices her head off, we're 30 seconds away from solving the issue. And it's brilliant. And then they think you are like as a god, which you are. And then they get out their money and pay you, and it's all good. So, because it's worth it, because you're great. And that's it. What have we done? We've created new layers in ARA. We've used ARA to do a bunch of different stuff. We've transformed selections, and I think that's about it for. Oh, we also showed the casting or the molding in Cubase, which is something that is so bizarre that it's and so interesting, and I'm so glad I had a chance to show you that here today. And so yeah, that concludes the ARA portion. That includes the ARA portion. So now I'm looking at my paperwork here, and I'm I'm seeing that we have pretty much conquered the sound design stuff that I wanted to show you. And now I guess the rest of this is, the rest of today is going to be repair and restore functionality. And the cutoff point here is 2 p.m., so we have about 25 minutes left. And again, I just want to say thanks for checking in. I love doing these Hangouts. And the discussion today has been funny and insightful. And you guys make me laugh, and it's good. Looks like Mandelbrot fractals. It sure does. Chris says it sure does, and that's just what I said, yeah. Pattern Finder. I did not. So let's go straight to that. We'll do Pattern Finder now. And thanks for reminding me that we need to do Pattern Finder. I'm going to quit Cubase and delete all the work that we've done and go into, I'm going to go into Pattern Finder. And please excuse me for about 10 seconds. There's something in the room here that I need to take care of, and then I shall be right back. Okay, good. Thank you. Thanks for waiting. Sorry about that. I'm back, and I'll have a drink of coffee here. Perfect. And Pattern Finder time. And let's get this open here. Breaky backbeat. And sounds like this. Let's have a new color. That blue thing was nice, but let's go back to Inferno. There we go. I'm going to turn this up. This is a really tight and dry file. Now, Pattern Finder works like this. First of all, you find the object that you want to see repeated, and assuming that there's going to be enough repetition to warrant using Pattern Finder, then we're going to draw, or brush. We're going to brush a selection here, and look, my tool covers this guy right here. It covers it pretty well. And so I'm just going to draw over the top of this and select it. If I hit my spacebar, I can hear the selection. Boom. Just like that. And then I'm going to go select similar. And here you have options. The algorithm works, in a lot of ways, I guess you might say that the algorithm works the same way that it does with unmixed components, unmixed stems. It looks for tonals, it looks for tones, transients, noise. And here again, I think it looks for amplitude as well. And then, there's kind of a similarity threshold, and we're just going to use the default value here. And I'm just going to go select all, and boom, there it is. It's got them all. Now, this might be a good time to show you the Save Selection tool or option. You can hit Save Selection and then name it something, and I'm just going to call it 1 and then hit OK. Now, if I deselect the selection, I can go back up in here and I can load that selection. I can recall it, and it comes right back. Yeah. It's great. Now, I haven't had like a super ton of experience using this tool. It's a great tool. I've had some success with it. It's the thing that I'm interested in moving forward as I explore how to use this tool. I want to be able to know how generally specific or precise or imprecise or whatever the tolerances of my selection choice. For example, look at the magic wand tool here. I can stretch this out a little bit, and I'm going to grow it up. So now here we can see the object that we want to select. And here's my question, and honestly, I don't know the answer to this. Again, there's no net here. This is the real world, my friends. And so I am going to use the magic wand tool to select this frequency, okay? Now note that this is a lot more highly specific than using the last tool that I used. Oh, look at that, you can move it around. Yeah. Oh, and I'd also like to show you this other new feature in transform selection. You can transform the selection to expand the boundaries of it. And, this may be really helpful in the case of the pattern finder tool, because if you have a selection that doesn't have enough information in it to trigger the algorithm properly, then maybe you have to try it, but maybe you can expand that selection until it works. And so let's look at this selection here, and let's see what happens. This is a highly specific selection, and let's see what happens when we invoke the process. Select similar, and select to see. Look here, it only got one of the other ones. And that's because I think that I moved in too close. But what would happen if I make that same selection like this? Okay. And this is basically the same selection. Like the other one didn't work, so you can probably guess that this one might not work either. Okay, so now I've made the selection here. Now I'm going to go back to the transform selection tool. This is a new feature in SpectraLayers Pro 7. Now I'm going to expand the boundaries of that selection a little bit and open up a little bit more space around the object. And, okay. Let's see if this has any more, let's see if this has a better effect. Select similar and select all. Oh, look, it selected more. It's the last process only selected one. This process selected 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so we're kind of zeroing in on it. And I'm going to deselect this selection. And like I said before, from my experience, this tool, it likes to see a little bit of space around the object. It's a tolerance thing. And again, if we go select similar, and I can mess around with my similarity. If you might guess that if I go to 100% similarity, that I might not get anything because the tolerance is just too high. Select all. Yeah, they couldn't find it because 100% was just over the top. But and if I take it down to 0, it might select the whole file. Oh, that worked. But see here, it selected some things that maybe I don't want. A little bit much, but still though, pretty interesting. One more time. This is the object. Select similar. Default setting is at 50%, and select all. And this does the job. And so, yep. Okay. Photoshopping after all. It is scary though. It is. Oxygen Beats likes it. Oh, Howling Wolf. Howling Wolf. That's great. Auto-select things when you check and uncheck the boxes. Yeah. And Jim, thanks for checking in with us because we read these comments very carefully. And, user-requested features are really important to us. And we'll go through and index these comments. And Oh, and there's one more thing that I want to talk about here, and I want to give a shout out and a big thank you to the early adopters of SpectraLayers Pro 7, because, as you might imagine, we learn a lot of things really quickly when the program comes out. And so there's no way that we would ever learn these things that we need to know if we didn't have as many early adopters as we do. And so early adopters are so important to us, especially, when they communicate with us a lot and let us know what's happening. And we just get so many great insights from you. Okay, that's it for Pattern Finder. And let's try, let's do some de-essing. So we have a de-ess feature that's new in SpectraLayers Pro 7. And I'm going to go down here and open that up. De-esser. Okay. Now, let's look at the difference between a SpectraLayers Pro project and a WAV file. Now, if I open this as a project, then it's going to come up as a project, and it's not going to show up here probably as a individual WAV file. But if I open up just the WAV file, that's different. I can open that up, and it comes up here on its own tab, and I can close out of breaky backbeat and not save it. Ooh, that's interesting. I had a little bit of audio gapping there. That was a startling moment. Let me check my prefs here and make sure that, yeah, that looks good. Oh, that was a strange moment. Okay, well, so far with this presentation, luck has been with us with the bandwidth and the technical side and stuff like that, and pretty great. And thanks for being here, you guys. I really enjoy this. Okay, here we go. We enable you to express your creativity. Our vision is to be the first choice for people interacting with sound and music. Okay, this is the Steinberg mission statement. One more time. We enable you to express your creativity. Our vision is to be the first choice for people interacting with sound and music. Great. Okay, lucky for us, the Steinberg mission statements has many S's, and so let's take a look at those. Process, de-esser. Okay, now the de-esser, I believe it defaults to 3,000 hertz, and this is the default value, I think, a threshold of -10, a cutoff frequency of 3,000 hertz. And there's an option here to reduce the S or reduce the signal. Reduce signal is what we want to use to audition the S's that are going to be removed. So let's do that first. These are the default values. Here I've selected reduce signal, and I'm going to preview it. Okay. So these are the S's that would be removed in the default process. If I turn my threshold control down, or I guess I'm turning it to the right, but the number is decreasing. Let's just crank it all the way up. If I turn my threshold to 12 dB, then it picks up probably too much. That's just a lot. That's a lot. And so, you get a feel for that. And I'm going to reduce my threshold here down to 6 dB and preview it. That still might be a little much for my tastes. Maybe 4. Okay, great. Now, the cutoff frequency, the lower you set the frequency, the farther down into the low end the de-esser is going to attack or whatever. So now watch. I'm going to move this to 2,000. Okay, watch what happens at 2,000. See? At 2,000, okay, the process always engages when you hit return after changing a numerical value, which is great. At 2,000, the S's become longer. So again, at 3,000, now watch. Those, when I hit return, nope, not 300, 3,000. when I hit return, those S's are going to shorten up in frequency. They'll become shorter. Watch. See? Okay, great. So once I get that process done and I can see the S's, then I'm going to go to Reduce S, and I can preview the entire
We enable you to
file.
express your creativity. Our vision is to be the first choice for people interacting with sound and music.
Okay. And if I hit bypass and preview it, now watch, you can watch all those S's. When I hit the preview button, you're going to see all of those S's pop back into the picture. Watch.
We enable
Yeah.
you to express your creativity. Our vision is to be the first choice for people interacting with sound and music.
Okay, great. Bypass off.
We enable you to express your creativity. Our vision is to be the first choice for people interacting with sound and music.
And
We enable you.
let's take the reduction ratio all the way up to 100%, so it's going to make the deepest possible cut. Preview.
We enable you to express your creativity. Our vision is to be the first choice for people interacting with sound and music.
Okay, great.
We enable you.
And then when you're finished, of course, all you have to do then is commit. Click OK, and the process is completed. Okay, I'm going to roll back over here to my comments, see what's coming in. Try the D-click on this vocal. Yeah, sure. D-click works in with the same methodology as the de-esser. Let's reduce the signal and listen to the default click removal. I'm going to take the reduction ratio down to about 80. Okay, these are the clicks that are going to be removed. If I widen up my pixels to 6, it takes more and bigger chunks. And of course, if I remove the reduction ratio to 0, I get a blank space, which is, of course, not. That's what you'd expect. 50%. And 100%. 100% takes out a lot. Look, it really dives down there into the low end. And so let's choose 80. And preview. And now we'll reduce the clicks in the actual file. Let's preview it first.
We enable you to express your creativity. Our vision is to be the first choice for people interacting with sound and music.
Good. And bypassed.
We enable you to express your creativity. Our vision is to be the first choice for people interacting with sound and music.
Yeah. With for people with voices like mine, why these things are a lifesaver. Is that not true? Okay, so here we go. Let's reduce the clicks. Let's engage the process across the file. And boom. If I hit Command Z for undo, you can see what's being taken away. And Shift Command Z brings it back. And so here's the finished product.
We enable you to express your creativity. Our vision is to be the first choice for people interacting with sound and music. We enable you.
Sound Dutch. Yeah. SpectraLayers seems a bit like overkill for de-essing. I have a few de-essers that do their work perfectly, especially Slate. De-iosis, yeah. Sure. I know that Slate de-esser. That's a very good de-esser. Have you used SpectraLayers to de-click vinyl? Not yet. I need to build up some content doing that. I would like to go back and look at Gerto's comment. The Slate de-esser, I've used that, and because I'm a Slate subscriber, and I like that de-esser. It is a good one. It is good, and it's really good to slap on the narration bus of your NLE or anywhere, And if I remember correctly, I think I may have used that particular de-esser on guitars as well. And so, yeah, it's great. But there's something about spectral de-essing that that I really, really like. And I know that the Slate de-esser shows you a spectral view, but I'm not really sure if it's spectral de-essing per se. I think it might be just a visual representation of what the algorithm is doing. But the spectral de-essing, there's something about it, and I think it has to do with the level of precision at finding the target frequencies. And there's something about doing it in SpectraLayers that I also enjoy, and that was the process that I showed you, being able to preview the different tolerances and seeing how, your S's multiply with different options engaged. It's the same thing as taking a squeak out of an acoustic guitar performance. Instead of, slapping the de-esser on there and hoping that it does what you want it to do, what really happens is that you can get into the spectrum and actually see the exact moment that you want to change. And so, while I understand your point about overkill, the other thing I can throw in there is that in ARA mode, it's basically the same process. I mean, you can either throw a de-esser on your channel bus, or you can engage SpectraLayers in ARA mode and get it done that way. It's pretty much the same amount of, it's pretty much the same amount of time. It's not going to take you that much longer to do it in ARA. But yeah, I get your point. And, it also kind of depends on in how much of a hurry you are, and what kind of deadline you got to hit. But that said, the more you get into SpectraLayers and the more you come to terms with how to use it and integrate it into your workflow, the faster you get. The other thing here is that if you de-ess something, say you do it with a Slate de-esser, and then, render it out, and it's still not quite right. Remember, you can always use your eraser tool here to do additional de-essing. Is there any ch sounds in here?
We enable you to express your creativity. Our vision is to be the first choice for people.
Okay, like in choice.
To be the first choice.
Okay, choice. The clicker fixed choice pretty good. It's not that chewy.
To be the first choice for people interacting with sound and music. To be the first.
Okay, I'm going to go back to the beginning of this. Hold on. Ooh. Oh.
We enable you to express your creativity. Our vision.
Okay, say in the word vision.
Our vision.
If the de-esser didn't hit that quite hard enough, you can always take your eraser tool and go in there. But when you do that, you got to remember to bring that attenuation way down. I mean, even 2 dB of attenuation with even less hardness. It's all you really need. And if you get your brush size right, you can just get it in one stroke.
Our vision is...
Okay, so the sh on vision.
Our vision is...
Okay.
Our vision is...
Okay, that's a little tamer.
Our vision is...
Okay, that's optimal. So with 2 dB of attenuation, I had to draw over the top of that sound 3 times. So I guess you might say that's 6 dB, I guess, unless there's something I'm not aware of.
Our vision is to be the first choice for...
And so we had the choice.
First choice.
If that's a little bit chewy, you can knock it down by an additional 2 dB.
First choice. First choice.
You can hear it coming down.
First choice.
There you go.
First choice.
Yeah, and so fine-tuning, you would be surprised and amazed to learn, or, after you get your workflow going, how quick this stuff is. It's just lightning fast to go through here and make these changes. And again, your vision really takes a warranted level of importance. The old expression in the studio world is, don't use your eyes, use your ears. Well, sure, I get that. But with SpectraLayers, not quite so true anymore, because the visual, aspect of it can bring just a wealth of information into the process. And so it's 2:00, and let's go over here and take a look at some additional comments. Yeah, you have more control over the detail, Garitone. So if you do your plugin process over it, and there's still a couple little things there that you need to fix, why just go in there with SpectraLayers and dust it off and get her done. Is there a process tool feature like RX's Spectral Repair Pro? Yeah, sure, of course. I mean, this is a spectral repair and restoration application. But the best kept secret in town is that this is also a sound design, music creation, and artistic achievement or artistic fulfillment application that you're going to get just infinite amounts of satisfaction from. Okay, going through here. Indeed. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about the features that I did not have time to cover in the last 3 hours of play here that we've accomplished, and that would be declipper, the de-hum feature, and gee, that's it. So we did pattern finder. We did. We didn't do the voice denoiser feature. However, I did point out that denoising can also be a really critical function of unmixed components, unmixed components basically, because after you run that voice through unmixed components, the noise is revealed. And so these features in SpectraLayers Pro 7 have multiple purposes that go far beyond what they're actually stated for, the stated purpose. And so, again, the more time you spend with this program, the better. And you can learn. You'll be listening to something like on the radio, and you'll say to yourself, wow, if I had SpectraLayers, I could fix that with this tool, like a string squeak or some other artifact or whatever, just basically anything. And so you can hear things, and then, you'll make connections in your mind about what tool or process that would use to fix it. And so, yeah, we did pattern finder. We did not do voice denoiser. We did de-esser, de-clicker. We did not do declipper. We did not do de-hum. We did ARA pretty extensively. And going down my list here, yeah, we did molding. We did not really explore improved healing, but that video is available on the Steinberg site. Since February, March, I've made 15 different videos with SpectraLayers. Some of the videos are based on SpectraLayers elements, and some are based on SpectraLayers Pro. So remember, those are always there to look at and go back and review. And we did unmixed components pretty deeply. We did unmixed stems pretty deeply. I got to say, unmixed stems today, what we did, a couple of those things knocked my socks off in ways that I really didn't plan on seeing. Like the way it isolated the vocals in that rock track, that was something that I didn't really know what was going to happen. I was kind of like working without a net with that track. But when I saw how it pulled that vocal out of that rock track, that was a little bit remarkable. Oh yeah, and I showed you some molding, which is actually not a Pro 7 feature, but it's really worth knowing. And the range control. Can SpectraLayers be leveraged to analyze audio to aid in polyphonics with MIDI chord extraction from MIDI from audio, or to adjust MIDI chords in Vari audio? If so, probably not automatically. I'm not as familiar with Vari Audio as I should be, but I'm working on it. So I'm not sure of the answer to that. SpectraLayers gets into sound and can alter it in ways that's unique, totally. The software can do other things that other software can't. Sure. It's thrilling. And thank you so much. I've been at it here since 11 a.m. Central Time in the United States. My name is Mike Scheibinger, and I'm here in Madison, Wisconsin. And I'm down in my little studio called Virtu Studio. And it's in the lower level of my humble abode. And before we sign off, I'll just show you a little picture of where I live. See, this is my house. This is the ceiling. No, I'm just kidding. That's not true. I'll show you my house. This is what I look like in case you're interested. This is where I am looks like. I'm tired. 3 hours of this is long. Let me find this picture. Hold on. And so, many, many thanks for hanging out and being with me today. What a great way to spend a weekend. And I can't find the picture. Well, here it is. Okay, see this? This is my backyard here. And this is my house. And as you can see, I have an exposed basement where I can walk out of the basement and come into the outside world. And so I'm right behind this door. You can't see the door, the tree covers it, but this is the basement of my house. Here's my deck. And this is where I sleep at night, under this haystack, because I'm a field mouse. And so that's where I am. Oh, and this is a state highway. This highway connects Madison, Wisconsin with Chicago. It goes down into southern Wisconsin, crosses the border into Illinois. And if you stay on this highway, then you'll go through Rockford and eventually you'll hit Chicago. And so, this is my little house in the country with my internet connection is provided by, it's not really a satellite, it's a tower connection. And so up here on the peak of this roof, there is now a tower, or a dish here, which wasn't here when this picture was taken, but this dish seeks this way out into the fields, and there's another tower a few miles away, and that's my internet hookup. It's always a little bit tricky with bandwidth, because if there's a big thunderstorm here, some weird, electromagnetic interference, then that could jeopardize our hangout. And by the way, let me apologize one more time, because 2 weeks ago I was supposed to do a hangout, and I had an unforeseen circumstance, and so we postponed it for 2 weeks, and here I am. And thank you very much. One last look at the comments. Thank you, Gerto. It was so nice to hear you today. Range control, thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Twitter. No, I do not. I am not on Twitter. I am on Facebook. And you can, my last name is spelled S-C-H-E-I-B as in boy, I-N-G-E-R, Mike Scheibinger. And you can friend me up there on Facebook. It's just under Mike Scheibinger in Madison, Wisconsin. Or Virtu Studio. VERTUSTUDIO. If you look, but I don't really respond to my Virtu Studio page that much. So friend me up at Mike Scheibinger, and I'll be happy to answer your additional questions. I also visit the Steinberg comments page a lot and participate there too. Don't be jealous. And so with that, I bid you adieu. And once again, I can't think of a better way to spend a Saturday than to hang out with all my music and tech loving friends. And, this is just great. And I'm looking forward to our next hangout. Watch the videos. And now that this hangout's finished, I'm going to go back and work on some more videos. And some of the videos that I'm doing will show processes that I showed you here today. So consider this a sneak preview. And so I guess this is over and out. Thank you very much. Steinberg thanks you. I thank you. And SpectraLayers Pro 7, man, it's the best upgrade ever. And have a great day. I hope I gave you something to think about. And we'll talk to you all real soon, okay? Okay, checking off. See you later. Bye.